George Bush was born in Connecticut in 1946. Although he was an average student, he was an all-around great athlete, and through his family's connections, he was able to attend Yale University, where he was very popular and social. In 1968, he joined the Texas Air National Guard and was given an honorary discharge in 1974. After being discharged, he went to Harvard Business School. He then started his own oil and gas firm. His firm was struggling, so he sold it, and in 1989 he bought a piece of the Texas Rangers and became known as a very successful businessman. Bush decided to run for Texas governor as a Republican in 1994, and after he won, he focused on the issues of education, welfare, and crime reduction.
During his presidency, George Bush enacted several laws that would prove to change America as he knew it. One of Bush's earliest and most notable ideas from his campaign for presidency was the No Child Left Behind Act, which would build on the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965, which was enacted by President Lyndon B. Johnson. This act proposed the higher testing and accountability of schools toward their students. It would also require students to be proficient in grade-level math and reading, which was to be defined by the state. Bush declared that by doing this, it would not only raise the academic standards of America, but also create more jobs in the teaching industry, which would in turn lower the unemployment rate, which during his presidency averaged to 5.27%. Another crisis that Bush faced was the housing of Americans, and due to his actions and efforts in regards to adding houses for those who were impoverished, by 2006, 2.7 million more people had homes than they had in 2001. However, this was downgraded when it came to Bush's immigration legislation. President Bush strongly believed that illegal immigrants had no right to be in America and that our border must be better protected and defended from the majority of aliens coming from Mexico. Throughout his 2 terms, Bush increased the funding for Border Patrol by 66%, which included the pay for more than 6,000 new soldiers to guard and patrol the southern United States border in Texas, considering that 85% of illegal immigrants that entered the United States passed over the Rio Grande River. Although President Bush did so much during his 2 terms, much of it was overshadowed by the tragedy that occurred on September 11, 2001, when the Twin Towers were attacked. Bush received the news while reading storybooks to children in Florida, and since the reading was recorded at the time, it can always be seen how the president reacted when he heard the attack on the American soil.
On September 20, 2001, 9 days after the 9/11 attack, President George W. Bush gave a speech on Capitol Hill to Congress that they should declare war on Afghanistan, demand all of the Taliban and al-Qaeda surrender, and that all American prisoners in Afghanistan are released. Al-Qaeda is a terrorist group centered in the Middle East who have been launching attacks on different regions since 1992. The largest attack was the 9/11 attack on the United States. The war officially began in October of 2001. Shortly into the war, Bush received help from our allies, England, France, Canada, Australia, and Germany. From this point on, Bush had troops stationed in Afghanistan. One of the most controversial decisions he made was the invasion of Iraq. This invasion occurred because Bush was suspicious of Saddam Hussein, the leader in Iraq. He vowed to establish a democracy in this Middle Eastern country. He also believed that this made everyone feel more secure about the war on terror. Overall, Bush spent $87.5 billion on the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Bush also created the Department of Homeland Security in order to keep the American public safe from terrorist attacks. Overall, Bush believed in having strong relations with Latin American countries and started the Millennium Challenge account. This gave money to poorer countries and guaranteed that they would spend the money and run their government wisely. President George W. Bush's legacy has its positives and negatives. Some of the good things are the program he started to help with AIDS in Africa, where by the end of his term, 2 million people were getting the needed drugs. This number has now grown to 4 million. He also required schools to take responsibility for how children performed, and they had to help the poor and the minorities. He also helped the elderly by improving Medicare to ensure everyone got his or her needed medications. He also built up Homeland Security after the 9/11 attacks, which eventually helped to stop many more attempted terrorist attacks. However, after the invasion of Afghanistan, he also sent thousands of troops into Iraq, which was an unjust war. This invasion caused 100,000 Iraqi lives and 4,500 American lives. While the tax cuts Bush made seem good, they ended the surplus that Bill Clinton left the office with, and most of the tax cuts were given to the wealthy. Overall, Bush left office with a mixed legacy, though he is most known for his decisions on the War on Terror.